Good morning, everyone. It's Lee Henson, president and founder of AgileDad, and it's time for today's episode of the Daily Standup. So without any further ado, let's get started. Today, I wanted to talk to you about an article that was sent in for me to review. This one is called Forecast Don't Estimate. It was recently published by Zuzi, a fellow CST. And she brought up that there's almost no class on the planet where she didn't have a student ask about estimates and estimation and why estimations are not necessarily part of Scrum, which is really interesting. Because if you look at Scrum holistically, somebody might say, well, yeah, we estimate things all the time. We estimate things in hours, we estimate things in story points. But I think I understand her point here. So she starts with a bit of context. She says, the whole idea of agile estimation comes from XP, extreme programming, which is true. In the early days of Agile, where they use story points, velocity, planning poker, burn down, t-shirt sizing, all those things were popular for some time. However, if you look at the current state and art of Agile and Scrum teams, they seem to be drifting away from these concepts. And I think she's right and wrong at the same time. I believe that teams are drifting away from it because they haven't found a way to skillfully do it that works. But the teams who have found a skillful way to do it that works are leaning on it heavily to have an ability to forecast. I think that the problem is management and leadership want us to be able to forecast when something's going to be done. They want to be able to have some type of trackable velocity so that they can figure out how far ahead they are and what they need to be able to do. Teams, on the other hand, don't like it because it makes them accountable, which is a real interesting concept, right? So estimates were always a core part of project management because we believe we need to know what needs to be done. So the whole problem is not about what, but how fast it can be done, which I agree. Tracking velocity, showing burn down and estimating is useful in those type of predictable environments where there are only very little unknowns. But the more unknowns you have, the harder it becomes for you to estimate. And I agree with that. I don't disagree at all. But I feel like if there's a lot of unknowns, that this could be a symptom of a different problem. When there's a lot of unknowns, this is a symptom of having poor product ownership preparation for the backlog items that are about to enter into a release plan or a sprint plan. So I think it's important for us in the Agile world to focus on how we deal with complexity and fast changes and figuring out how we're going to get things to fit wisely into a sprint and how we are going to stop juggling people around and figure out a method that's going to allow us to track a true velocity. Now, this is kind of funny. I actually do an exercise in my Scrum Master class where I teach organizations and teams and people who come to my class how to get a true velocity for a team that is doing pure waterfall. So I teach them how to take their work breakdown structure, set up milestones, how to, and it's amazing when I get it all set up, they're able to see what that velocity would be. And what's even more interesting is while the time-based estimates using the Gantt chart are consistently wrong, the velocity-based estimates that they prescribe are usually about 85% correct. So instead of having 17% correct time-based estimates, this pushes us into a realm where we have 85% accuracy based on these story point / t-shirt size type estimates. Now, I think the problem with points is that everyone leans on a number. And when you start leaning on a number, the first thing a supervisor is going to ask you is 3 what or 5 what or 8 what. They feel like the number has to indicate something. Where a size, they say medium what, you could just say it's medium in size or complexity compared to everything else we're working on. When is it going to be done? Well, that depends on what sprint it's in. Based on a sprint it's in now, it'll be done on X date, right? And if they want to dig further, well, how long is it going to take? What if it's the first thing that's done? Well, we don't know that because our teams are filled with a diverse group of people. And based on who takes it, if our senior most person takes it, it'll take a lot less time than if our junior most person takes it. But either way, it's not going to be delivered until the end of the sprint. And I think that with the Agile world so focused on delivery and output, they're forgetting that we should be focused, in order to be successful using Agile, you should be focused on outcome, not output. And that outcome should be based on doing as little effort as possible to achieve the right outcome, happy customers. So I think it's important for us to get that balance. And I want to cut to the chase. There are probably 100 blog posts and 100 articles that are all disagreeing and all from different planets and all from different places. And I want to give Zuzi her fair credit here. She does a fantastic job of laying out the way traditional teams work, even traditional teams in Agile versus more modern teams. And she does a fantastic job of telling a story about the product owner role and how only 20% of the functionality is sufficient or good enough. You measured 20% of what you provide provides 80% of the value, right? And how that stayed the same. But I think it's important for us to understand is the thing that's most important for us to understand is that we need to realign our focus. And she saves this for the last paragraph. And I think that she does a good job when she says that if your product owner can do prioritization well, you can never fail to achieve it, which I think is true. Through that process, we focus on a different direction each sprint, our sprint goal, and inspect and adapt based on feedback. I think that's beautiful. There's a whole big movement about no estimates, no forecasting, those kind of things. And while, once again, I see where these people are trying to go and I see the value, I think that they're not looking at this from a leadership perspective. And having been a C-level executive in multiple companies, what I can tell you is that leadership frowns pretty heavily on not having any information. So I think it's important for us to realize or recognize that we need to give something in order for people to be able to be accepting of the work or to fund a project. And while I don't disagree that in a heavy changing world, we need to focus our attention in different areas, I do feel, Zuzi, that we can't necessarily throw a baby out with the bathwater. So I think it's important for us to understand the value behind the type of forecasting that we're doing. And that if we are going to estimate, that we should use something like t-shirt sizes or dog sizes or dinosaur sizes or mountain sizes or whatever you're going to use, but try not to use a number. And I think that the more you separate yourself from numbers and the more you separate yourself from time-based estimates, you're going to be better off in the end. So thanks for sending that in. I appreciate it. And Zuzi, as always, thanks for providing us with an awesome blog post. This was really, really well done. This was posted on agile-scrum.com, and it was published on September 30th. So it's a relatively new article. I encourage you to go out and give it a look. Thanks a lot for listening to the Daily Stand-Up podcast. We appreciate you being a subscriber. We encourage you to let other people know about this podcast, that this continue to grow and continue to go forth for many years to come. As always, we encourage you to have a great day, enjoy the rest of your workday, and as always, stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.